Well, dang. I reckon I gotta get a new iPhone again. How about you? So I just watched the Apple event and I thought it was really cool at the end where they announced that it was all shot on an iPhone. I kind of wondered about it. I thought maybe it was during the show. And when I saw Tim Cook at the beginning, I thought maybe, because of the shallow depth of field or lack thereof, maybe it was shot on an iPhone, and they confirmed it. So, man, it's really made a lot of improvements over the last several years. And they'd done that before, but it's just cool to see them doing that again. So here are my main takeaways from today's Apple event in the perspective of a filmmaker and using the phone for mainly video and filmmaking perspective. First and foremost for me is ProRes RAW. What? Are you kidding me? A lot of professional cameras don't do ProRes RAW. That kind of came out of left field for me. I'd heard no rumblings about that at all. So we all thought, and I still do think, that Apple Log is professional, and it is, but now add ProRes RAW into the mix and, the phone really is a professional filmmaking tool. So that's a big, big takeaway for me. It's called a pro phone, but they're really, really leaning into the pro part with the 17 Pro. Now, we don't know the file sizes yet and whether it's native camera app, or I believe they mentioned Blackmagic Camera, which does make sense because that's their go-to third-party app. And ideally, you'd want to record RAW to an external drive, an SSD. And so we'll see how it shakes out. But to me, that is really interesting and really cool, again, to see Apple going full bore pro. And now in that vein, they now have Gen Lock on the iPhone 17 Pro. Now, Gen Lock is pretty niche, admittedly. That really is for higher end production. And I think of Genlock timecode, where you're jam syncing timecode across multitude of cameras, and usually in a studio environment, but even out in the field. And then there's other ways to use Genlock with syncing the cameras. It made me think of the rig that Danny Boyle used on 28 Years Later, where they showed that bullet time effect, where they had the different cameras and they all triggered them at the same time. So that would have come in handy there. But again, Apple leaning into the pro part of the phone by including Genlock. Now, how many people will actually use it? I don't know, but it's pretty cool to see them adding that kind of feature to a phone. But really, the most practical and probably the biggest selling point for me is the new telephoto. It's now a 48 megapixel to match the main and the ultra wide, and it has a larger sensor, evidently 56% larger, something like that. And then on top of that, it'll extend out to 8 times. And so went from 5 times to 8 times, which is about a 200 millimeter equivalent. So really, that's powerful to have that in your pocket. And now that it has a larger sensor, it should be much better in low light. And I'm curious whether it will affect the external lenses, like the reflex 240 millimeter lens that attaches to the 5 times, designed for the 5 times and attaches to it. And it gives you a 10 times look. I wonder if it will work and now give you a, whatever that would be, 15 times with that 8 times. But the flip side to that is, I wonder if now having the 8 times built in, if that will maybe hurt or deter people from, even needing an external telephoto, because really you'll have most of it built in. So it's really a big selling point to me. And one of the main reasons that I'm probably upgrading is to get that telephoto built in. Now, another thing that could really come in handy for filmmakers that they pushed as a way just to cool the phone, I think primarily because of the size of the battery, but the new thermal management system, I am assuming, will also help keep the phone cooler when recording like 4K Apple Log, ProRes, or whatever, because the phone heats up pretty easily. And in particular, if you're shooting outside in the sun or just in a hot climate. I've done several videos about that, and they actually sell fans you can put on your phone. Will the new thermal management eliminate the need for that? I don't know yet, but it's definitely going to be something worth looking into. And that may look or feel boring, but if you ever had a Sony camera or a Canon camera that overheated when you were shooting with it, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and your phone will do the exact same thing. The new thermal management really should improve that, or I hope it will. And I think that's another good reason to upgrade. And one thing they didn't mention in the video that I found really interesting, and I looked at it on their website under the technical specs, is they mentioned that you now have Apple Log 2. I'm assuming it's part 2 or a number 2 version, that would be an improved, new and improved, a better version, maybe having better dynamic range or maybe having reduced noise. I don't know, but I use Apple Log all the time. Pretty much everything I shoot on my phone is Apple Log now. Maybe it'll trickle down to the previous gen phones. I don't know. But that was another kind of hidden thing I found on the website and the tech specs. And so that could be another good reason to upgrade. Now, a couple items they didn't mention, and one was widely talked about, and that is 8K video. There was no 8K video announced, and I'm fine with that. 6K video I can kind of get because you shoot 6K, then you master in 4K. But 8K, unless you're doing visual effects and wanting to do lots of reframing, it's really just a waste of space. And I think 4K video, especially now that we can upscale video so easily, to me, I'm glad almost we didn't get 8K video because the file sizes are already huge. Another thing that caught my attention they didn't mention, and they haven't mentioned it the last couple years, maybe 3, and that is cinematic mode. Cinematic mode has kind of quietly just set in the background and it doesn't really seem to be getting any advancement. Now, maybe they're doing some incremental upgrades. I don't really know. I don't actually use cinematic mode that much anymore, primarily because I shoot a lot of Apple Log. Now, if they would let you shoot cinematic mode with Apple Log, even with HEVC, then I probably would use it more because the regular cinematic mode video, since it's just normal baked in HEVC, just doesn't look very good, especially when you're used to shooting log. You know, it's over sharpened, it's kind of crunchy, oversaturated. I like the effect, the bokeh effect, but it really sometimes it's just not worth it because the video quality itself is just not that great. But I would like to see them improve it over time. And so maybe in the future we will, but this year we didn't hear anything with the 17 Pro about cinematic mode. Now, my two biggest surprises, although I probably wouldn't use them myself that much. Number one is the basic iPhone 17 is actually a really powerful iPhone now. It has all the cameras you would need. It's very fast. It's very affordable. And the only thing it doesn't allow you to do is shoot ProRes, but you could, I think technically, I haven't tested it because I don't have that phone. Could you use Blackmagic and shoot Apple Log with HEVC and just not shoot ProRes? If that's the case, then it's a really pretty good filmmaking phone. And so if you don't need ProRes and you potentially can shoot Apple Log using a third-party app, something to look into. And the other thing that I really thought was pretty interesting is the new selfie camera. And I guess it's on all the phones, but being able to have the square, almost, I guess, a la OpenGate in a way, to where you can shoot landscape and vertical with the phone holding it in portrait mode. That is pretty cool. And it also has that center stage feature that reframes the camera for you. Again, for what I do, I don't know how valuable that would be, but for some stuff, especially, doing YouTube videos or social media, it can be pretty cool. And I believe it does work across the entire product line. So all the way from the basic iPhone 17 up to the 17 Pro. And while the iPhone Air absolutely looks cool, I love how thin it is, and I really like how lightweight it appears to be for what I do, video and filmmaking, not interested in it at all. If I was not doing filmmaking and I just wanted a cool phone because it looks really powerful, if I wasn't needing professional video features, it might be interesting. But for what I do, it's not. And so that was probably the least interesting thing of the whole event. Who knows? It'll probably sell well, though, to regular consumers. From a video and filmmaking perspective, I would stick with the Pro. Although, as I mentioned, the iPhone standard, the iPhone 17, is pretty interesting, especially if you don't have a lot of money or if you don't need to shoot ProRes or ProRes RAW. It could be a pretty good option. So will I be upgrading? Yeah, I will. I run a YouTube channel called the iPhoneographers, and so I kind of have to have the new phone. If I didn't run this channel, would I upgrade? Probably. The new Pro features are really pretty interesting to me. But if you have a 16 or a 15, because those both shoot Apple Log, you don't really need to upgrade. If you have a 14 or before, I would absolutely upgrade, because going from the 14 to the 15 to the 16 was gigantic, especially again for filmmaking and video. So if you're looking to do that, 100% recommend it. If you're just looking for the incremental upgrades you get going from 15 or 16 to 17, I think the new telephoto probably makes it worth it, in my opinion. I use that lens all the time. And now that it even has a longer telephoto, it's pretty cool, and a better sensor, etc. So yeah, I'm upgrading, but I don't know if it is enough for everyone out there. Some of those features are kind of niche or very pro, but I don't know. What do you think? Will you be upgrading? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. This is Blake Calhoun. Please like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.